There's never been a better taste. There's never been a better Coke. Introducing the greatest taste discovery in 100 years. Introducing the new taste of Coca-Cola. A taste that is Coke and everything a Coke means. A taste that's very familiar, yet totally new. A taste so good, so real, it couldn't be anything but.
April 23rd, 1985. To the average person, this day is meaningless. But any long-time Coca-Cola connoisseur knows this day was infamous in the company's history. Beyond breaking ground as one of the most iconic American brands of all time, the company also left notable marks on the advertising industry after pulling one of the biggest marketing stunts in consumer goods history, with the introduction of New Coke. Though New Coke may not be the first thing on your mind when you think of the decade best remembered for big hair, pop music, and the very infancy of the digital age, the company's introduction of a reformulated Coca-Cola with a redesigned can and massive marketing blitz made huge waves. They promised a better taste with the new formula. Up until then, the formula had not been tweaked with since the company removed actual cocaine and lowered the amount of caffeine in the product in the early 1900s. This less lethal formula withstood the test of time, and in the 74 years up until that point had brought the company great success. So why would Coke change the recipe now? Could perfection be superseded? No. Unpredictably, consumers hated New Coke beyond anything the company had ever expected. Though the product performed exceptionally well in preliminary taste tests, the company faced an unbelievable amount of backlash upon New Coke's official release, which caused its quick decline. The return of Old Coke, now branded Coca-Cola Classic, on July 11th, 1985, put the cap on a revolutionary 79 days, and stands today as a testimony to the power of taking intelligent risks, even when they don't quite work as intended. But still, why would the company even attempt to change a product that was already so successful? Although the story of New Coke is widely recalled, the context is often forgotten. In 1985, the company's share lead over its chief competitor in its flagship market with its flagship product had been slowly slipping for 15 consecutive years. Consumer preference for Coca-Cola was dipping, as was consumer awareness. To put it briefly, Coke was succumbing to Pepsi. Things were looking grim, and they needed a Hail Mary to revitalize sales. Executives found that in New Coke, just not quite in the way they expected. When they ran tests on the Coca-Cola formula, the company discovered that New Coke was preferred by nearly 200,000 consumers than Coke Classic. Executives thought they had fixed what consumers didn't like and caused declining sales. What these taste tests didn't show, however, was the way consumers felt like the brand embodied who they were, something they didn't want anyone, including the Coca-Cola company itself, tampering with. The events of early 1985, pundits blasting the marketing blunder of the century, consumers hoarding the old Coke, and calls of protests by the thousands all permanently altered the Coca-Cola company's strategy moving forward. Calls flooded in not just to the 800 Get Coke phone line, but to Coca-Cola offices across the United States. By June 1985, the Coca-Cola company was getting 1,500 calls a day on its consumer hotline, compared with just 400 a day before the taste change. People seemed to hold any Coca-Cola employee, from security officers at headquarters to their neighbors who worked in low-level positions for Coke, personally responsible for the change. When the announcement of the return of Old Coca-Cola was made 79 days later in July, those hoarding as many as 900 bottles in their basements could stop their self-imposed rationing and begin to drink the product as they always had, as often as they'd like. Upon its return, the story that the old Coca-Cola was returning to store shelves, now branded as Coke Classic, led to 2 separate network newscasts and made the front page of virtually every major newspaper. Consumers applauded the decision, and consumer outcry over New Coke was replaced by affection for Coke Classic. In just 2 days after the announcement of Coke Classic, the company received 31,600 phone calls on the hotline, showing that Coca-Cola had struck a chord with many on a very personal level with their change. For years, Coke Classic was sold alongside New Coke, and the two brands had distinct advertising campaigns, with the more youthful Catch the Wave slogan for New Coke and a more sentimental campaign branded Red, White, and U for Coke Classic. Later, the name for New Coke was changed to Coke 2, before the company eventually discontinued the product in the US after dismal sales. Ultimately, New Coke didn't fail because it was the introduction of a bad product that people didn't like, but rather it failed consumers as they felt as though the company was taking away an existing product that strongly represented the American culture and identity. In conclusion, or should I say in retrospect, despite being known as one of the worst products of the 20th century, the failure of New Coke allowed the Coca-Cola brand to soar to new heights. Without this stunt, consumers never would have realized what was in front of them the entire time, and it's unlikely the company would have been nearly as successful as it is today. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.